A company contracted to monitor those in quarantine, the latest in the fight against COVID-19. A prison officer headed behind bars, but not for work. Plus, Rotary Bahamas helping those in need.
Our news is brought to you by Alive.
Welcome to Our News and thank you for joining us. I'm Kyle Joaquin. A company has been contracted to monitor those placed in home quarantine, according to Ministry of Health consultant Dr. Merceline Del Regis. During a press conference today, Dr. Del Regis outlined steps being taken to avoid a further spread of the virus and addressed controversy surrounding a man who tested positive for COVID-19 before boarding a repatriation flight to Grand Bahama.
When an alert is signaled, the Ministry of Health and the Royal Bahamas Defense Force will visit the premises.
The signing came after the Ministry of Health lost contact with over 12 people who were ordered to self-quarantine at home. Hubcat Solutions, a private communications company, has now been given the task of monitoring individuals placed on quarantine and alerting law enforcement whenever there is a breach.
It provides geofencing capabilities, which pre-program virtual boundaries around the properties or dwelling structures of those in quarantine and isolation. Broadcasting alerts whenever there is a breach or violation of the virtual boundaries, and real-time tracking and recall.
The total number of confirmed cases remains at 96, but a model projects the country can see 125 COVID-19 cases by the end of the month if strict social distancing practices aren't adhered to. But there are some islands that remain under the same curfew and lockdown, but with no reported cases. According to Del Regis, good news should be coming to them soon.
When we look at some of the other islands, Andros, Cat Island, Long Island, where I think the Prime Minister has asked, would we support that? And we've certainly given it strong consideration. And I think in his national address, he would announce which of the other islands would be, the restrictive measures would be lifted.
Temporary Health Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis was not present at today's briefing. And there was concern over how a man who tested positive for COVID-19 in Florida was able to board a repatriation flight and head to Grand Bahama last Friday, even though he later tested negative.
This is not unusual that someone whose test is 10 days old and it doesn't justify his coming on the flight.
Health officials now say despite the passenger testing positive in Florida as many as 10 days prior to the flight, he would have been in a phase called the shedding phase where he posed no risk to others. The man was given 2 tests upon landing in Grand Bahama, both of which came back negative. Dr. Del Regis says while they're not making any excuses, the passenger showed no symptoms and in fact presented his positive results upon landing.
So when he came on the plane, he was not shedding the virus. We weren't satisfied, so we repeated the test, and that too was negative. That confirmed to the health team that he was not shedding the virus when he took the flight.
Upon learning that he was positive, he was tested immediately thereafter, as well as his close contacts, by a test method that's called PCR, which looks for actual gene target. That was not detected in 2 tests. He had no symptoms. So we are very satisfied, as Dr. Del Regis said, that at the time that he traveled, he did not have viral particle in his upper respiratory tract. But to answer your question, Mr. Sawyer, about how is it that persons can have virus in their respiratory tract secretions and how does that link to transmissibility is a very good one. And so we know that when people are infected with the SARS coronavirus, that virus will be in their upper respiratory tract.
In other news, a prison inspector was arraigned along with a mother and son on drug-related charges today. Julian Gray has the details.
A prison inspector was brought handcuffed and shackled to the magistrate's court to answer to a drug-related charge.
Yvonne Seymour in the gray shirt was charged along with 47-year-old Jamaican national Suzette Wright Smith in the blue shirt and her son, 19-year-old Philip Smith, in the gray shirt on one count of possession of dangerous drugs with intent to supply. It is alleged that on May 15th, the trio was found in possession of 13 ounces of Indian hemp. The drugs were reportedly found in a residence off Fire Trail Road and have a street value of $1,950. They all pled not guilty and were remanded to the Bahamas Department of Corrections until September 1st. Reporting for our News, I'm Jillian Gray.
Meanwhile, 23-year-old Nathan Roll was arraigned before Magistrate Joyanne Ferguson Pratt today. Roll is charged with one count of murder in connection with the shooting death of Jason Joseph on May 5th. According to police reports, Joseph was walking through Fox Hill when he was approached by a gunman who opened fire in his direction. The gunman then got into a small Nissan vehicle and fled the scene. The 17-year-old was pronounced dead a short time later. Roll was not required to enter a plea. He told the magistrate that he feared for his life in prison. Magistrate Ferguson Pratt made note of the concern before remanding him to the Bahamas Department of Corrections. Well, a man who was shot at the end of March died following a 6-week stay in hospital. His family says it was a depressing stay since visitations were virtually non-existent. Jared Higgs reports.
28-year-old Jerron Thompson was just starting to get his life on track.
He moved down here to get a change of pace in life.
But back in March, that progress came to a halt as Thompson was shot in the leg in the Albury Street home he lived in. Police say the March 28th incident was the culmination of an altercation between two men. Thompson's 21-year-old cousin, who preferred to withhold her identity, says he remained hospitalized for 6 weeks until his shocking death on Thursday night.
We talked to him straight up to everything. Just when I see him Thursday, we couldn't get a call, we couldn't hear from him or nothing. Then Friday he's gone. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Thompson's cousin says the hospital stay was difficult for the man she considered to be a big brother. You see, Thompson's parents are both dead, so he relied solely on extended family for support. However, visiting hours have been restricted at PMH, and on April 23rd, they were suspended altogether.
He probably would have been also depressed, having anxiety attacks, panic attacks, so forth, because there was no one there.
Thompson's injury could not have come at a worse time, as hospital resources are stretched thin due to the coronavirus pandemic. Hundreds of healthcare professionals have been quarantined, leaving limited staff available on the front lines to fight the virus and deal with other healthcare needs. The man's frustration was made obvious in videos he posted on WhatsApp.
Still beeping. No one come to my rescue. I smell like an old dog. My cheating ain't chained for 3 days.
The grieving family member admits that Thompson could be temperamental at times. However, she says the changes in his mood were obvious when he was moved around the hospital's different wards. She tells us how she would try to support him, staying on the phone with him until her minutes would run out.
You just want to know what's happening outside here. Being in there, he just want to know what's really happening outside here. He's like, how's the lockdown? Just keep him updated. He's be like, what the day is?
Describing him as a protector, the young woman says now it is time for family to step up to the plate for Thompson, even if it means making personal sacrifices.
We have to put a hold on our education now to try to make ends meet, because like I say, he don't have a savings, he don't have any insurance, nothing. So everybody have to at this time, we need everyone on board to put up and let's see what we could do.
Now the man's family say they're using the incident to get closer together. They don't know exactly what the next step is going to be for them, but they're taking it one day at a time. Reporting for our News, I'm Jared Higgs.
Some families are having a hard time following the strict order of only 10 people at funeral services, according to Ministry of Health consultant Dr. Merceline Del Regis. Under the emergency order, only 10 family members or friends are permitted to attend weddings and funerals. Police have now been stationed at graveyards to ensure they adhere to that order.
We have received reports that family members and friends not part of the invitation list have presented themselves to witness the ceremony. Consequently, police officers have been posted at graveyards to enforce the participation of only 10 family members and friends.
Dr. Del Regis added that funeral directors have a responsibility to assist with stopping the spread of the virus by not allowing relatives to touch the deceased. That includes kissing and hugging.
To view the body using standard precautions, including hand hygiene. Adults over 60 and those who are immunocompromised are not permitted to directly interact with the body.
Still to come, meet the UA student volunteering as a lab tech, plus the story of a widow determined to provide for her young daughter. Stay tuned. Thousands of students have had to complete their courses and academic programs without the benefit of a graduation ceremony. Tonight, we share the story of a student who is among thousands who won't walk across the stage this month, but is playing a pivotal role as a frontline worker. Jerome Sawyer reports.
This story is brought to you by J.S. Johnson, Insurance Agents and Brokers, giving you peace of mind.
3 months ago, Tavion Smith was preparing to graduate from the University of the West Indies in Barbados with a degree in biochemistry. These days, he's working at the National Reference Lab and completing his degree online in the evenings.
Well, when COVID started breaking out, being started leaving the campus, moving in droves, and then after a while, my family's like, the next plane you get, you better come home now. So,
having made a decision to return home, he was encouraged to volunteer.
My father said, you're learning these skills. He said, I think the Prime Minister talked on the news about needing volunteers and stuff like that. So he's like, demonstrate your skills, help out. So when I talked to a nurse who's a check on me when I came in from Barbados, and I talked to her about it, and then next thing I knew, I was talking to Dr. Martin. Now I'm here, and it's been a ride.
In the fall, he hopes to do a master's in bioengineering and then return to this lab that's given him an opportunity of a lifetime.
I came thinking that, COVID's this big, bad disease. And I thought everyone there had been so strict, I guess. But since I've been there, I must say it's been a very nurturing environment. I've had very good experiences learning how to deal with diseases and stuff like that when it comes to analyzing and being safe and cautious and stuff like that. Also, they're teaching me how you're supposed to act in the lab when it comes to working with others as well. So it's been a very good experience.
Like so many others, he's proud to serve on the front lines in the COVID-19 fight.
Especially seeing these hardworking individuals, I'm very proud because Dr. Martin especially, no days off. I've seen her, she's been in countlessly, working very hard. She even been teaching me the skills, her and Dr. Whitfield even some call to. I must say, it makes me very proud to be here.
Reporting for our news, I'm Jerome Sawyer.
The COVID-19 pandemic has meant even tougher times for a young widow who has been struggling ever since her husband passed away from cancer several months ago. Despite being jobless, she says she is determined to keep food on the table. Jasmine Brown has her story.
It didn't feel good.
Bridget Curry says ever since her husband died last October, her life has continued on a spiral downward. She says her late husband played a major role in her life and the life of her 9-year-old daughter.
That was really me and her help to get at least us too strong for her. Now it's just me.
Curry says she and her daughter were living in a comfortable home with her husband until he passed away from cancer. Without enough funds to pay the rent, she says they were evicted and have been living in this one-room efficiency on Kemp Road for the last 3 months. Curry says now that she is unemployed, this is all she can afford, but she desperately wants to do better for the sake of her daughter.
Just trying and see how it going out. Finally, or hopefully I'll get a job. My baby.
While she is facing a difficult situation, she has a message of hope for other single mothers in similar situations.
Just stay strong. It is a God, this just a phase. And you gotta look out for your babies, not you.
Reporting for our news, I'm Jasmine Brown.
All right, thanks, Jasmine. Still to come, Rotarians come together to feed thousands. The details after this break. You're watching Our News. Welcome back. Members of the Rotary Bahamas Disaster Relief Committee coming together with local churches and civic organizations to help those who have fallen on hard times due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Georgia Bain has more.
The Bahamas Rotary Club Disaster Relief Program is providing some much-needed care packages for persons in need. The Church of God of Prophecy Youth Campsite on Marshall Road serves as a packing facility for the Rotary Bahamas Disaster Relief Committee, which has prepared over 1,000 care packages for distribution. Past president of Rotary Club Old Fort Bay, Shanley Toot, said packages have already been distributed to residents in need all over New Providence and Andros. The effort stemmed from Rotary's Hurricane Dorian initiative.
So Rotary is working with different churches and civic organizations, asking them to give us the names of those sick and shut-in elderly people who wouldn't necessarily be able to feed themselves. We put it into a master database and share it with other organizations to ensure that there's no overlap or gaps, and then we disperse every other Friday.
Recipients will receive about 2 weeks' worth of groceries, according to Toot, who said by then another round of packages will be ready for distribution.
In these packages, obviously the perishable goods would be about 10 pounds of chicken, 2 pounds of ground beef. Non-perishable goods would be 5 pounds of rice, 5 pounds of sugar, 5 pounds of cereals, tuna, fruits, and the likes. It's a lot of stuff.
Bishop Arthur Evans of Shekinah Family Word Center, Quaco Street, said there are hundreds in his church's immediate area who were in need before the COVID-19 pandemic, and the situation has only worsened.
Wow, there has to be hundreds, because the Over Hill community is a densely populated area. There's a whole lot of people in the area, and so just around our church, it's got to be hundreds of persons between Quaco Street and Fowler Street and Peter Street.
Meanwhile, pastor of Church of God of Prophecy Mini Street, Philip Ferguson, said the pandemic has affected many in the densely populated area.
Immigrants, to be quite frank with you, inhabit that area, and we have about 40 children who are second-generation immigrants, and trust me, they are in serious need.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Giorgio Bain.
All right, thanks, Giorgio. Still to come, a Bahamian athlete set to make history. Stay tuned. And finally, in news tonight, another Bahamian athlete is poised to make history by being the first to go pro in cricket. Marcellus Hall reports.
Well, one of those sports you don't hear a lot about, and by the way, it's the national sport of the Bahamas on the books, is cricket. There are some Bahamians that actually do play the sport. One of them is doing very well at it. Mark Taylor recently entering his name into the draft. We had a chance to talk to him about a professional career.
It's almost like a dream come true. You dream about playing with professional players and being a part of a professional team, and it just shows you that all the years you were playing and doing well, it actually at least it amount to something. Not only personal goals, but you get to be the first Bahamian to actually play professionally. That's actually a big accomplishment. I had my coach Marlon Graham. He pitched it to me, I think sometime last year, but it didn't really work out too well. And then he went back at it again this year, and we've had a little more success with speaking with a few teams and getting me entered into the draft.
Can you kind of enlighten people as to how major this is when you talk about being in professional ranks as far as cricket is concerned?
Well, being a professional cricketer is it's almost equivalent to just the major other organizations, baseball, the major leagues, and the NBA, and it in terms of the makeup of it, it's understanding. It's almost on the same par. It's almost just as difficult to make it. But in cricket, it takes a lot of work. I mean, it doesn't look like a sport that takes a lot of training and practicing, but it actually requires a lot.
How are you able to stay as sharp as possible in the event that you are drafted? And how do you think things are going to be able to move forward? Obviously, everything's shut down.
Yeah, well, me and my coach, we kind of came up with a plan. You know, it's a lot of home-based stuff. However, we're still able to get out from time to time. You know, but you know, I just do a lot of home workouts, a lot of hand-eye coordination workouts, bat speed workouts. You know, I could be able to perform at the highest standard whenever I get selected, if I do. The scheduled date for the draft is May 22nd, and it was not postponed as yet. But I guess I can't really speak to what will happen after the draft. You know, the key is to actually get drafted, and then the team that hopefully drafts you will speak with them, and then after that they're going to schedule a training camp and all of that. In preparation for the upcoming games.
And we wish, of course, Mark the best of luck in his endeavors moving forward. Don't go anywhere. So much more to come. I'm Marcellus Hall for our news.
Thank you for joining us for Our News tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Kyle Joaquin. Remember, you can catch Our News on the go with the Revco Play app. Have a good Friday evening, Bahamas.